Was COP26 a success or not remains a question of debate. Ameenah Gurib-Fakim, I have some very interesting numbers with me. It says between 2010 and 2020, droughts, floods, and storms killed 15 times as many people in highly vulnerable countries in Africa, South Asia, and South America as in wealthier countries. Would you say the impact of climate change is discriminatory in nature, and why is that?
I used to think that it was discriminatory in nature, because when you see the impact of climate change, you see that mostly the vulnerable people actually being impacted. And here I'm going to be very blunt. I think that we're getting traction, we're getting visibility on climate change, because the countries in the north now are also being impacted by climate change. And I think this is for real. We've seen that. We've seen fires in Australia in places that we'd never thought we'd see flooding. And I'm not going to say that it's serving anybody, it's not going to serve anybody, but I think now the awareness has been raised that this is now for real, and we have to tackle it. But unfortunately, we know what the problems are, we know what the solutions are, and I don't think we're moving fast enough. I see some countries, they're putting target to 2050, but I don't think nature will wait for us until politically we made the target. We know what the problem is. The problem is emission. We have to cut, we have to reduce emission. And I still do not see how this can happen. And as what you said, what we've seen earlier on, with the war in Ukraine, I think climate change is being put back in the back burner. So this is, in a way, a welcome effort that WION has put this together, that it will bring in the conversation further again, because while the war might stop, climate change will accelerate.
That's a fair point, and we will come to the war as well. But you've been the president of your country, and you've said that we're behaving like that frog. I agree with you when you say that it's got more visibility because the global north is being affected. But why do you think, if everyone agrees that this is a problem, and we have a fair idea what the solutions will look like, why aren't more governments and leaders doing what needs to be done? Would you say that good climate policy makes bad politics?
I don't think I think we have to go further back. I think we have to look at after the Second World War, when we were setting up all these multilateral organizations, we were setting up the UN, for example, and the conversation was about, for example, measuring GDP growth. We know that GDP growth is measured by virtue of extraction. In fact, the entire model, the business model of our world is built on extraction. So for as long as we're going to have this approach of looking at our GDP, at our growth, we will be having this conversation forever. So I think it is time to rethink how we measure our growth, what are the indicators we will target. But unfortunately, some continent like mine, the African continent, we have a very, very tight window for growth, because even though we have emitted only 4% or less of greenhouse gas emission, we are going to be impacted more. So I think this is, again, the conversation must be had. What is the carbon window that countries must be allowed so that they can grow the economy and fulfill the responsibilities and the promises to the people, and at the same time coax those who have been polluting to reduce the carbon impact?
Which brings us back to the question, Divya, who is going to be deciding that?
I think we know what needs to be done, as was just said. I think the science is very clear. It's very unequivocal about where we are headed, what we need to do. I think the solutions are there. I think we need commitment. And, I think the mechanisms, the global mechanisms are all in place. And eventually the success of any mechanism is in how invested stakeholders are in the success of that mechanism. So I don't think we need to sort of rejig systems. I think we have everything in place. We have the solutions. In fact, for a lot of climate, environmental crises, not just for climate, the solutions are there. I think it's just now the kind of commitment that we need, not just from governments, but from businesses, from civil society, to take solutions at a scale where they will begin to show impact and a difference is what we need.